Check, check. Microphone check. What's up, guys? Waiting for this thing to go live. Says there's 7 of you waiting. Seems like the live stream's going through. You can hear my microphone good on that end. That's excelente. So I hope you guys are all doing well out there. I don't know about you guys, but my live stream window is playing awfully strange, but maybe it's just me. So I'll give everybody a chance to sort of pile in. It takes a little time for y'all to arrive, so welcome to Flat Earth. Welcome to the Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, wherever you happen to be in the world. And hope y'all are having a flat and stationary day. Good to see the chat is working. I had put a comment on here and it disappeared. And I tried to say something in the chat and it wouldn't let me. Now I can type in there. Hello. So getting started, I figured I'd do this live stream today to discuss with y'all, the community. Really just wanted to talk about the eclipse that's coming up, eclipses in general, flat Earth, and of course my finger. So you guys that have been following me for a while, all 25 of you watching right now, maybe I should save this story for later, because I think that there will be more than 25 people. So I'll just totally wait on that for now. But welcome all, welcome, come in, welcome everybody coming in. Welcome to Flat Earth. Welcome to Saturday. So I made a video, put out a video a couple days ago. It's called Eclipses. Well, no, I'm sorry, Flat Earth, Eclipses, and such, because you know, the Earth is flat. We know that. The Earth is not moving. We know that. And we know that eclipses are not exclusive to a heliocentric theory. And so in that regard, you know, we do have the upper hand, as always. As flat earthers, it is nice to always have the truth on your side. However, we still have to humor the heliocentric theory in order to show people how bizarre, peculiar, and preposterous it actually is, which is something that I enjoy. I feel it's delicious finding faults and contradictions galore in the heliocentric theory premises. So, you know, one that I touched on in the video and hopefully you guys were able to relate to is the fact that according to this whole bizarre heliocentric theory, we're expected to believe that shadows from objects are essentially focused down to a point, and such objects would be the moon, the Earth, both allegedly cast bizarre, conical, inverted shadows, inverted to the way that we normally see shadows in reality. So nowhere in reality can anyone demonstrate a shadow that gets smaller than the cross section of an obstruction. However, that we need to accept that 100% as a fact in order to believe in the heliocentric model, because this upcoming eclipse, the diameter of the totality, or the, you know, how wide is the shadow of the moon going to be, or I should say how wide is the shadow of the eclipse going to be, because, you know, there's some people that won't agree that it's the moon transiting the sun to cause a total solar eclipse. But this time on August 21st is going to be about 75 or 70 plus miles in diameter. So that is a little strange, considering that object, the moon, is alleged by ballers to be over 2,000 miles in diameter. So, you know, ask yourself the question, how does a 2,000 plus mile diameter object that's allegedly spherical cast a shadow that is even 50 or 70 miles, let alone 2 miles at sometimes during certain annular eclipses in diameter? And the answer is, You don't see that sort of thing in reality. Shadows, light and shadows is something that we can physically study in reality, and you can't demonstrate a singular light source, even something like the sun. You can't demonstrate that causing shadows, which are peculiar in a sense that instead of diverging away from the obstruction or being exactly as wide as the obstruction in some certain cases, what you'll see is allegedly, in order for the heliocentric model to work in the terms of eclipses, you're seeing these bizarre, peculiar, conical, inverted shadows that cannot be demonstrated. And again, one has to accept that 100% in order to remain a ball Earth proponent. And I just don't see how they get away with this, because frankly, as a flat earther, we know that uh, NASA and all those guys are lying. We know they never actually went to the moon. We know they don't even really have the ability to go into what we consider as space. That is why when they launch rockets, they always curve their trajectory downward and they end up essentially in the sea. That is where all rockets end up, is in the sea. And so, NASA is fooling us. They don't really know everything like they project to people. I've often heard it claimed by Lions that we know more about the stars than we do about the Earth. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you look it up, that's sort of the position of some theoretical physicists, is that we know more about the stars than we do about the Earth, which of course is just ridiculous. But you know, how in the world are we expected to believe that the moon is 2,000 miles in diameter and some 240,000 miles away, as it projects a shadow that is even, say, the 70 miles in diameter, which is pretty large? That fluctuates depending on the type of eclipse. So how, I mean, really, what is going on? And of course, they say, well, the sun's rays are coming in at parallel lines, and in fact, that is a staple ingredient of the heliocentric theory. If you don't have that, then you don't have Eratosthenes' argument. If you don't have that, then you don't have the go-to argument that even the ancient Greeks believed they lived on a spinning ball, because it was something that, yeah, sure, they may have hypothesized it, but we didn't get things like globes and Mercator projections until obviously after the 1500s, when the continents of America were quote unquote discovered. So, to say that the ancient Greeks knew the Earth was round is totally just logically fallacious. It's a logical fallacy because, for one thing, the Earth is not round. It's obviously a stationary plane. Although there are some elements to the Earth where it's almost as if it was set up to trick us into thinking that, we live on a spinning ball. It is all very nice and neat when you take a look at everything as a whole in terms of, how light refracts or bends through the atmosphere, and how ships apparently go over the horizon bottom first. That's what appears, but that's the operation of perspective, and at certain distances you do have the sort of atmospheric refraction effects. But you've also got other things like the Polaris in the north, which could sort of lead one to believe that we are spinning on an axis. But at the end of the day, all that stuff was theoretical. I think that it's historically, science wanted to get it right. Science wanted to understand our place in the universe, but I think the whole thing really went off the rails with the Copernican revolution and the whole idea. Once Columbus discovered America, in quotes, and Magellan did the first circumnavigation, that's when it really appears that the globe Earth propaganda kicked in worldwide. Right, is after obviously the circumnavigation of the world. That's when I could see the big proponents coming out saying, well, this proves we live on a ball. And if you start teaching that to children, then people will believe that circumnavigation is exclusive to a ball, which, it isn't. So, but it sort of makes sense. I mean, I can see why everyone got it wrong, and, we were all taught wrong and so very young. And so, and certain elements of it do seem to make sense. But then you get into things like these eclipses, right? Where again, the shadow of an object that's supposedly over 2,000 miles in diameter is restricted or confined down to a 2-mile diameter shadow, or a 50-mile diameter shadow, or a 70-mile diameter shadow. It doesn't, it just doesn't work like that in reality. So that's one of the biggest beefs I have with eclipses. If you guys watched my video, the west to east apparent motion of the eclipse is not, that doesn't disprove the heliocentric theory. It does work in the heliocentric theory. That doesn't mean it's true. And so one of the things that I did not do in this last video is describe, what I think is going on in terms of eclipses, because frankly, what I think is irrelevant. Sure, I have lots of theories about what's going on with eclipses, but can I prove any of that? Absolutely not. Not in a million years. Maybe with, maybe in a lifetime. I won't say not in a million years. Maybe in a lifetime, if we spend, for the next 20 years, if we spend as much effort, or at least as much money and pretended effort, that NASA has spent in the last 50 years, if we do that sort of, $50 million a day budget, $20 billion a year budget to actual science, then I think that we can come up with a really good, solid model. We'd have to know exactly what's going on all parts of the South, which is made illegal by the Antarctic Treaty. We'd have to know what's going on in all parts of the North, which is made illegal by the Arctic Treaty and allegedly protected by the dew line up in the northern parts of Canada. And so, we don't really need, I hate to say, but we don't really need a model as flat earthers. We just don't. We don't have to explain eclipses. We don't have to explain why the southern stars apparently counter-rotate compared to the northern stars. We don't. We absolutely do not. We don't have to explain what's going on in eclipses because, frankly, the Earth doesn't have curvature. I can show you a million pictures that prove it. And practical physical experiments always prove that we're not spinning around on an axis. So, I mean, with that data, there's logical data, repeatable data to back these claims. I'm not just pulling this stuff out of thin air. The Earth is flat and stationary. We don't need to explain eclipses. Now, we can theorize all day long, but if we start making claims like, well, the west to east shadow of the, totality of the eclipse is impossible in the heliocentric model, then, that sort of makes us look bad as flat earthers because it's not so. That's not the case. It could be animated. It can, hypothetically be done. And so, that's what the globe heads are going to go with. So I just think we should stick with arguments that are, physically demonstrable, repeatable. Like, one big thing that I've already touched on is light and shadow. And again, how light and shadow works in reality is totally opposite of what we must believe is occurring in the heliocentric theory verse, right? So another thing, and I was sort of expecting a couple of tentative guests, so it is me just sort of ranting, and since nobody showed up, this may be a rather short show, but I will be opening up the phones, and I am watching the chat as best as I can, doing this lone wolf in it today, but I did want to share with you guys my finger, because it's now been 3 weeks since the accident with the lawnmower. Today's been exactly 3 weeks, and I used a pretty aggressive MMS topically on this injury. And after the third week, this last week was actually very interesting. All of the sort of, well, I don't want to turn anyone's stomach, but there was sort of necrotic flesh that was on the top of the skin, and it made it look very bad. This week, all that peeled away, and underneath it is almost like a brand new finger. And so I will say that the MMS that I, strictly used, I didn't go to the hospital at all. I did use a little hydrogen peroxide to bubble out some of the, I don't know, grass and rock debris that was scattered in the wound. But other than that, I've just used MMS on it. So let me just share my screen and I'll show you guys. I just recorded this about 10 minutes ago, or well, 10 minutes before the show. So let me figure out how to share my screen without giving away the address here. Share my screen, excelente, and we'll go straight over to here. And so I just wanted to show you guys, first off, this was the day of, I am doing a little video on it. This is for MMS. That's the day of the injury. Okay. Maybe we'll get, yeah, so some pretty good ugly shots of it. Here, I'll just zoom in on that bad boy real quick. Yeah, so that's how it looked the day of. Pretty nasty, pretty gnarly. This was 2 weeks later. So this was just last week, and you can see it like sort of like what I was saying, the necrotic flesh. It was looking pretty ugly, but actually underneath it, so that's still the same second week after. That was 14 days exactly after the incident. It looked kind of weird. It was bruised up and it had sort of like a dry, almost like, when a snake sheds its skin, like that kind of just dead skin, like making a shell over what was healing up. That's how we heal. And this past week was sort of interesting because all that necrotic flesh just sort of peeled away. And as of today, August the 5th, that's all peeled away. And you can see just from MMS alone, over 3 weeks to the day, that injury was from a lawnmower blade. It was an accident, obviously. I didn't do it on purpose. And you can see just using MMS protocols, topically dipping my finger in MMS solution water, pretty aggressively for the first several days, not so aggressively for the second week, twice a day for the last week. And it's almost basically 100% that this was just a few minutes ago, within the hour. So yeah, there you have that. I'm just sort of scrolling through that's my finger 10 minutes ago or whatever. So right on. Okay, so that's covered. Let me stop sharing so I don't do that. Righto, let me go change over to the chat, see what y'all are saying, and I'll go ahead, since no one else has joined, and open up the phones. I've got 2 bars of battery on my silly little home phone, my cordless regular home phone. So I guess I'll either talk till it dies or talk till y'all stop calling. Yeah, I'll put the number in the chat. It's 864-327-9373. There you go in the chat. Oh, wow. And somebody, let's see, Rio Skyscraper NOK 200. Wow, thank you. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but thank you very much for that. MMS, it stands for Miracle Mineral Solution, right? Miracle Mineral Solution. Yeah. And what it is, it's chlorine dioxide. That's what the final form of the medication is. And the way that I get it is I order hydrogen chloride. It's sold as MMS. You can find it online. I don't particularly recommend any brand over another. I don't have any sort of MMS sponsors. You can get MMS from lots of different sources. The 2 ingredients that make it, the main ingredient is sodium chlorite. And I think you want to get a 28% solution of sodium chlorite. And then you pick your activator, which is either citric acid or hydrochloric acid. If you use citric acid, you want to use, I believe, a 50% concentration. And if you use hydrochloric acid, you use a 5 or a 6% concentration. And either way, whichever activator you use, either way, the end result is chlorine dioxide. And what it does is it's basically an antifungal, anti-parasitic, antiviral, pro-healing panacea or panacea. It works on everything. I use it on everything. And so I figured I'd use it on a actual wound. And I must say, you know, I've had other pretty severe wounds in my life. This really totally sped up the healing process. I feel like I can use my finger maybe about 80 or 90% right now, when it was literally the tip of my finger was severed by a lawnmower blade 3 weeks ago. So I think that's pretty good. And it wasn't severed. The lawnmower blade, I'll make a video on it, hit the finger sort of perpendicular. Like if you point it yourself directly in the face and then hold your finger, you know, vertically to that. Like if you're making the shh sign, oh goodness, now I'm going to be a Freemason. But and if you just take a slice directly towards the center of your finger, that's how it went in, and it sliced over off to the right, and basically my finger was hanging. The tip of my finger was hanging by some skin. So I put it back together and just kept it clean, kept MMS on it pretty much every hour, very aggressively. Like I would use, the way that you do it is, the way the MMS is put together is you take your sodium chloride and take however many drops. Like if you're gonna do, if you can use MMS topically as well as you can drink it. Okay, so if you're gonna drink it, then you want a very, very low concentration. If you're gonna use it topically or even orally, like if you're gonna swish it around in your mouth, it does wonders for abscesses. Um, but you wanted a little higher concentration if you're just going to use it topically or just orally in terms of like swishing it around and spitting it out. But if you're going to swallow it, then you maybe want to do 1 drop of each, 1 drop of the sodium chloride and 1 drop of the activator. And it's for MMS cures. And I'm not a medical doctor, and so I don't want to make any medical claims here, but it cures things like malaria and MRSA and all these other things that doctors will tell you are incurable, do very, very well with MMS. And so, yeah. Anyway, so I hope that answers your questions, Ryo. Oh, wow. And Gare Andreas saying, oh, there you are. And Gare, sorry, I thought that was somebody else. That was really weird how that happened. Gare, thank you, sir. I need to get up with you on Skype, Gare, because there's people out there telling me that you are not being truthful about the 90 days of no sunset. Now, I totally believe you. I 100% believe you. And so I do want to get in touch with you and do a recording, because I still have our recording from a few weeks ago. I guess it was still in June, towards the end of June, I believe, when we did a recording. And Gare's at the 60 degrees north latitude in a place called Baren, if I'm saying that right. And 60 degrees north, they get 24 hours sun, maybe some hours of twilight, but certainly no nighttime for 90 days. This is according to Gare, starting in the beginning of June to the end of August. So we still have some time to keep in touch and do another recording so that I can see for myself that he's actually telling me the truth. And I have no reason to doubt him, none at all. I spoke with him for several hours on the phone. He's told me that everybody that lives where he lives knows about this. It's not a big secret. That they get 90 days practically of daytime at 60 degrees north. And I think that the reason that we're taught differently in terms of Western education, because everyone that I polled basically thought that the 24-hour sun was exclusive to the Arctic, right? So at 60 degrees north is too far south, and that it lasts for about a month. And again, what Gare's saying is it lasts almost 3 months. So there's a conflict here between what we're taught and apparently reality. And so just to be sure, I'm going to do, Gare, we'll have to do something where you just stay up till 3 in the morning or whatever, like you did last time, 3 in the morning your time, and we will do another screen cap so that I can see for myself what's going on with the sun at 60 degrees north, because the thing is we should see the same thing at 60 degrees south. If that's true, if what he's saying is true, then if you don't see the same thing at 60, now we'll say 61 degrees south, and err on the side of caution, and account for that altitude of the observer where Gare's at. But if we don't see that sort of thing at 61 degrees south, then the ball's got a big problem. And, in that context, then the Antarctic Treaty makes a whole lot of sense now, doesn't it? Because we're not allowed past 60 degrees south, you see. So that's very clever of them. So, wow. I'll go ahead and give out the number one more time. Sounds like nobody's really interested in calling in today, so that's may end up being a short show. But again, it's 864-327-9373. And yeah, I appreciate that super chat, Gare. And I am shut down Skype for now, but I will be back on Skype. I guess today might be a good day to try to do that, man. Although from what Gare told me, the end of August is when we have to when the sun will start setting again for them. And so that's a very interesting thing, and pretty contrary to what we're taught in the Western culture. I remember being taught that the midnight sun was strictly in the Arctic area, meaning the Arctic Circle, and strictly for a couple of weeks on either side of the northern solstice. That's what I sort of remember being taught, and that's what pretty much everybody everybody that I polled in terms of the flat Earth community remembers being taught. Although there are others who, after I revealed them this, said, yeah, maybe I remember hearing something about 90 days, but certainly not at 60 degrees north, right? Because that would have to be, so the whole thing is very much contrary to what we're taught. And so I am looking forward, Gare, to our next Skype conversation. Obviously, nobody wants to call in. Oh, Awakened Mind, no, I'm not going to the Flat Earth dinner tonight in Charlotte unless anyone wants to come and pick me up and pay for my dinner, because I am 100% flat broke. That's what happens when you become a flat earther. You become flat broke. So, and by the way, thank you again for that, Gare. That super chat, awesome. I'm not sure how much that is worth in US dollars, but it is appreciated if I didn't already thank you enough. So how far am I from Charlotte? I think about 45 minutes or so, maybe a little longer. Let's see. Charlotte, I know it's not very far. NC, and I'll get map and directions to my house. It's well, from Charlotte to Spartanburg is 75.9 miles. And I certainly ain't got my walking shoes on today. I'm not going to try and walk 75.9 miles. So unless y'all want to come and scoop me up and pay for my dinner, because I don't even have, I think I have 7 cents in the bank. So other than that, I'll probably be calling it a homebody night as usual. I've got a lot of work cut out for me. Yes, Awakened Mind, I'm in Spartanburg. Got a lot of work cut out for me still on the book. I have cut off adding new stuff to it, which seems to be one of my problems in finishing it, is the fact that as every week or month goes by, something new almost necessarily has to be added to it. And, honestly, I've sort of, well, I don't know. I may break one of my rules because I've actually already added certain things about eclipses, putting it as a section where I may just include the information that I want to include inside of another section that I've already completed. But I didn't really want to go back and start messing around with stuff I'd already completed. But anyway, I'm just ranting now, just thinking out loud. So reading the chat, those poops were made for walking. And someday them poops are gonna plop all over you. The boot song with ad libs. Very funny. Oh, people who can't see the chat in the archives are gonna think that was me. So unless anybody has anything, any questions, any comments, anything anybody wants to talk about, I'll put my number out one more time, and after that I'll wrap it up because I've never had such a short live stream show. Oh, hello, there's Karen B in the chat. Glad you can make it at least to the chat, Karen B. And I am putting my oh, I can't. This is so weird. Trying to put my number in chat and it will not allow it. So last time, are you guys not seeing this? 864-327-9373. There we go. So that'll be the last time. And if you haven't seen my new video, hello, Life O'Reilly. Go ahead and check it out. It is the Flat Earth Eclipses and Such video. Just put it out in the last couple of days. So check that out. And we've been going 30 minutes and it seems like we're done. So Cosmology Matter says, TheMorgile, what do you think of the field of geodesy? Well, I think that I guess that would mean in terms of surveying, it definitely needs to be done in the far south. That's what I think about the field of geodesy, is that it needs to be done in the far south because, let me ignore that, because it has never been done. Lines of latitude and longitude have always been measured in the north, historically, going back ancient times. You know, when they were making up the constellations, they were measuring out degrees of latitude and longitude, hypothetically, I believe. Certainly by the 1500s, they had very well assumed the northern degrees of latitudes at all the different longitudes. And it really seems what they did is they rubber stamped the northern values to the south. And that's what gave us the spherical projections. And that's what gives us the Mercator projection. But it seems as if there is an inherent flaws built into the matrix of all maps. And that would also include the AE projection and the Gleason's map as well. Because if in the 1500s, they had Europe and Russia and Asia and all that stuff mapped out very nicely in the north, and maybe parts of the south. But you know, Australia and South America, these big, huge chunks of land were just not included in surveying. They couldn't have been historically, and so it seems that it was just a big, huge shortcut for science or those responsible for you know, making maps, cartographers and such, were took a big shortcut. That's what they did. They were lazy and they took a big shortcut, and they simply took the values from the northern latitudes, degrees of longitude at different northern latitudes, and clone stamped that information to the south. Bada bing, bada boom, presto changeo, you've got your sphere Earth, and you've saved yourself many, probably I would say years, maybe even lifetimes of geodetic or geodesic surveying the far south. And when you look at historical attempts of people to circumnavigate the far south, they were never able to make their way all the way around of it. And this actually, you know, rings true to modern times, because when you look at just a few years ago, it was within the last 10 years, a guy named Fedor Konyakov, and I probably spoke about him a couple times, but he broke a world record. And the world record that he broke was that he circumnavigated the world entirely as below the 45-degree south latitude. Okay, so 45 degrees south is not Arctic. Okay, 66, is that where the Arctic Circle begins? I believe, whatever, is about 66 degrees, 65, 66, right? Whatever. But 45 degrees south is certainly not Arctic. Now, Fedor Konyakov was a member. He's done the Antarctica Race Challenge, whatever. And what they do is they adhere to the northern latitudes as much as possible. Now, Fedor Konyakov is unique in the sense that he did by himself in a yacht with sails, by himself, solo, um, a complete circumnavigation below the 45 degrees south. However, he spent the majority of his time in the 45 degrees south and the 50 degrees south, and possibly didn't even approach the 60 degrees south. And if he would have approached the 60 degrees south, and if he would have breached the 60 degrees south, then he would have been turned around by the Antarctic Treaty, who people allege there are automated systems out there preventing people from free roaming the far south. So I'm not going to vouch for that, but it is interesting. If I had a nice big yacht boat to go check it out, I would go try. Unfortunately, I don't have any way to go to the 60 degrees south, unfortunately. So, got off on a tangent there, getting back at chat. Geodetic surveyors claim to be measuring the convexity in their processes. I understand your point about the southern hemiplane, but the issue is that these types of surveyors claim curve. Yeah, okay. Well, and I would just ask you, Cosmology Matters, have you read Zetetic Astronomy? Because that's an issue that's brought up, and I think it's fairly well addressed, because the equipment used, like a spirit level, whatever these guys are using, what is it called? A theodolite. There you go. Theodolite uses a little convex lens inside of it, unless they've changed that recently. But that's what surveyors use, is a spirit level or a theodolite. It's got a little convex lens that you look through. And that convex lens or something in front of it has a little crosshairs, right? A vertical line, a thin vertical line, and a thin horizontal line. And what they find in using this equipment is if they level out their equipment to the true level at the point where they're at, then it appears through the theodolite that the ground drops a little bit, even over a few miles. Okay, and so this has been claimed historically to prove a spherical Earth. But the thing is when you use a convex lens, you get refraction. And so if you think about think of the horizon as a perfectly straight line, and if you draw a straight line on a piece of paper, and then take a magnifying glass and hold that magnifying glass over the line, or better yet, take any convex lens and hold it over that line. Well, at certain angles, that line will actually look lower. And maybe let me just draw this out. I'll just diagram this out. Hang on. It's much easier to diagram out than it is to explain. So, screen share. Okay. Oh, yeah, I was going to tell the people that were joining that didn't join I was in the bathroom, but so much for that. So what I'm saying is, okay, you've got a perfectly straight line, right? Make it a black line, doesn't matter. Make it 6 point, there you go. Okay, so you take a perfectly straight line, but if you take a, let's see, no, not that. Sorry, you guys have to see this. Where is this? Sorry. Oh, here we go. We can just play this video since I'm sharing the screen. And I will mute the video too. But basically, if you were to take something like that, that's what I'm talking about. Something just like this, a big convex lens, right? That's what they use inside of the theodolite, if I'm not mistaken. And they certainly used to, and they probably still do, unless they've changed the whole technology of theodolites. And what happens is, where am I at? Here we go. When you take something like that, and I'll just draw it as a circle because I don't need to go in 3 dimensions here. You know what I'm talking about now. We'll give it a stroke as well. Sorry, guys. Okay, so whoops, no, nothing here. All right. So when you take this and put it over this line, well, here, I need to go ahead and sever this stinking line real quick so I can show you. Well, hell with it. I'll just do it the easy way. So what's going to happen now? Come on, you bitch. When you move something like that over top of that line, what will happen is it will refract. So it'll look like that. And that's what these guys with the little, they've got their little crosshairs that are perfectly, they know that the crosshairs are perfectly in the center of the viewfinder. And they know that their equipment is level. And so they assume that the Earth is actually dropping away when, in fact, what's going on here is maybe I don't have this just right. Maybe this should be more centered, right? So this would be like, it would be centered on the horizon, and this would be more centered on the guides here. Sorry, y'all. I will get this right, I promise. So this would be like here, and another one just like that. Right. So that's essentially, I don't know, maybe that should go up some, shouldn't it? Yeah. That's what's happening in those, when the surveyors historically have seen what's called, I guess it's called apparent drop, or they think they see the Earth falling away at great distances through a spirit level. It's because of refraction. When you're looking through something like, where'd it go? Where'd you go? When you're looking through something like this, well, all sorts of funky stuff happens with the lighting, and this, we use these convex lenses to represent even the atmosphere or the atmosphere. Light is a funny thing. So that whole time I was not able to see chat, but hopefully, this is what was described in Zetetic, and to me, it makes perfect sense. If you study what they were using, at least in the 1800s with theodolites, it was a convex lens. And they're seeing this apparent drop due to the refraction of the light in the lens itself, and not an apparent actual vertical descent due to curvature. So hopefully that answers the question satisfactorily. Right. So looking through reading, it would be much easier if y'all would wanted to call in, but I guess not. Arc between the two theodolites, reading out loud here in the chat. So anyway, I guess I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. This will definitely be the shortest one ever. I guess I better stop screen sharing as well. Stop sharing, blah. Right. So I appreciate all you guys hanging out. I just wanted to, this was sort of a follow-up on the Eclipse video, see if anyone had any questions, comments on that. If you wanted to call in, so that opportunity was there. I love all you guys. I appreciate you spending time listening to me. And this way, I guess I'll be getting back to work on my next video and the book, which is still coming along nicely. So thanks all for joining me this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Love you guys. Stay flat, spread the word, spread the world, and peace out. Smaller than the cross section of an obstruction. However, that we need to accept that 100% as a fact in order to believe in the heliocentric model, because this upcoming eclipse, the diameter of the totality, or the, how wide is the shadow of the moon going to be, or I should say, how wide is the shadow of the eclipse going to be, because there's some people that won't agree that it's the moon transiting the sun to cause a total solar eclipse. But this time on August 21st is going to be about 75 or 70 plus miles in diameter. So that is a little strange, considering that object, the moon, is alleged by ballers to be over 2,000 miles, which is something that I enjoy. I feel it's delicious finding faults and contradictions galore in the heliocentric theory premises. So, one that I touched on in the video, and hopefully you guys were able to relate to, is the fact that according to this whole bizarre heliocentric theory, we're expected to believe that shadows from objects are essentially focused down to a point, and such objects would be the moon, the earth, both allegedly cast bizarre conical inverted shadows, inverted to the way that we normally see shadows in reality. So nowhere in reality can anyone demonstrate a shadow that gets check, microphone check. What's up, guys? Waiting for this thing to go live. Says there's 7 of you waiting. Seems like the live stream's going through. You can hear my microphone good on that end. That's excelente. So I hope you guys are all doing well out there. I don't know about you guys, but my live stream window is playing awfully strange, but maybe it's just me. So I'll give everybody a chance to sort of pile in. It takes a little time for y'all to arrive, so welcome to Flat Earth. Welcome to the Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, wherever you happen to be in the world. And hope y'all are having a flat and stationary day. Good to see the chat is working. I had put a comment on here and it disappeared. And I tried to say something in the chat and it wouldn't let me. Now I can type in there. Hello. So getting started, I figured I'd do this live stream today to discuss with y'all, the community. Really just wanted to talk about the eclipse that's coming up, eclipses in general, flat Earth, and of course my finger. So you guys that have been following me for a while, all 25 of you watching right now, maybe I should save this story for later, because I think that there will be more than 25 people. So I'll just totally wait on that for now. But welcome all, welcome everybody coming in. Welcome to Flat Earth. Welcome to Saturday. So I made a video, put out a video a couple days ago. It's called Eclipses. Well, no, I'm sorry, Flat Earth, Eclipses, and such, because the Earth is flat. We know that. The Earth is not moving. We know that. And we know that eclipses are not exclusive to a heliocentric theory. And so in that regard, we do have the upper hand, as always. As flat earthers, it is nice to always have the truth on your side. However, we still have to humor the heliocentric theory in order to show people how bizarre, peculiar, and preposterous it actually is.